It's been ages and ages since I've done this. I just spent like 2 whole minutes trying to adjust a shawl because apparently I can't remember how to do any of that. Hello and welcome to Just One More Thing. This is a podcast about knitting and crafting, and I'm your host, Janessa Keller. And it's been ages and ages and ages since I last talked to you. I'm sorry about that. Maybe we should just call this season 3 because pretty much around the same time last year, I'd had like busy, crazy life around Christmas and fell off the wagon of podcasting and took like this huge 4-month hiatus. And that's pretty much where we're at right now, I think. So yeah, maybe this is a seasonal podcast and we're in season 3. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I would like to be able to promise you that I will do this weekly again, maybe bi-weekly. Right now I have it set up to where I've put it on my calendar like every 2 weeks to podcast. We'll see if I can work back up to doing it like every week. I can't make promises. But I will promise that when I do come and give you a podcast, it will be full of great content, and I hope you like this episode. And if you do, make sure you are subscribed so that you get the random notifications, the once in the blue moon, that I do put out the podcast. And tell your friends. The more people that I have holding me accountable to a podcast, the more likely I am to do it. Let's just put it that way. If that subscriber number starts creeping up, I'll be like, oh, I gotta get a podcast out now. So there's that. Make sure and share it with your friends so that they will help keep me accountable to giving you great knitting content. I will say that while I was away, I was very busy doing knitterly things, writing patterns and doing some like behind the scenes business stuff for Just One More Thing designs. I've moved beyond just kind of like my Ravelry handle to actually making it a business that I plan to grow and put great knitting content out into the world via this brand name. So one of the most exciting things that happened while I was gone is that I now have a website that you can visit. So justonemorethingdesigns.com. I'll put it here on the screen. This, for right now, is basically a landing page so that you can subscribe to my newsletter. There's going to be a newsletter. So it's kind of like the landing page for people to subscribe to the newsletter. It also shows all of my designs that I've published to date or that are in the process of being published in the case of the one that I'm about to share with you. It also has a page where I've put all of my tutorials. Now, some of them are kind of pattern specific, some of them aren't, but they're basically all of, and I'm gonna kind of, that's my first page that I want to kind of new and improve on, and get more just like generic knitting tutorials put out there to help people with their knitting. Especially some left-hand knitting tutorials. I've been told that there are people out there who really want that. And I'm like, are there really? Because don't most people, like, I always feel like it was a fluke that I taught myself to knit left-handed. And I always feel surprised when I come across other knitters who knit the same way that I do. But apparently there's many more of us than I would have thought. And so I don't know, we're just gonna see if that's something that people enjoy watching. So I might be putting out some more of those. The website also like just kind of has my getting to know me page and yeah, just like some basic stuff. It's evolving and growing. I don't plan to put out a blog. I mean, let's face it, if I can't manage to put out a podcast weekly, I'm not going to manage to put out like a weekly or daily blog. That's just not going to happen. So for right now, I think it's mostly just going to be a place where people can like see my patterns all in one place, and they can, you know, check out my video tutorials and things like that. So that was pretty cool. I managed to like build a website and publish a website. In other exciting news, I have a new pattern launching. Sorry, I'm going to put all the self-promotion like right up top. If you don't want to hear all of this, you can like skip ahead to where I show you things that I've been knitting on. But if I don't get all of these things out at the top, like I'll completely forget to say that. So, yes, I have a new pattern coming out, the Boonbridge shawl. This one that I have on is kind of my pride and joy at the moment. It's actually a little, I might just kind of wear it blanket style. This one has been in the works since this time last year. It's been in the works for a really long time. It's actually been finished for a really long time, but right after I got done kind of coming up with the idea for the shawl and like swatching out the shawl, I submitted it as a design proposal to Notions magazine. They're an online knitting magazine, and it's Notions with a K, so Knoti. I can't remember what letters I've just said. Knotions. Notions. There we go. I've been practicing the spelling bee with the kids for long enough. You'd think I'd have been able to be better at that, but so yeah, anyway, I came up with this design idea almost a year ago, submitted it to Notions, they accepted it. So even though I had it finished like, I don't know, 6 months ago, and it's been in testing for the last 6 months, I haven't been able to like share it really with I've posted pictures, I've kind of hinted, I've mentioned it to close friends. But yeah, I haven't really like, you know, promoted it at large just because I was waiting for the launch of the magazine, and that is happening next week. Today is the 22nd of March, and March 30th is when the magazine goes live. So you'll be able to purchase it on the 30th, and yeah, I'm just super, super excited about it. It's not the easiest shawl to knit. I'm gonna like just put that out there. This is definitely more of a adventurous beginner intermediate type shawl, because there's just like a few little quirks that aren't basic stitches. If you're comfortable knitting lace, you'll definitely be able to pick up the lace part really easily. If you're, you know, familiar with like increases and decreases, I don't think you'll have much of a problem. The only issue that people had was with the spine. So you can see these stitches that go across the spine up here. That was the one thing that it took my testers just a little bit of time to figure out, and it took me some time to figure out the best way to word that so that it made sense. I think we've got it all cleared up in the final version, and there shouldn't be too many issues with it. But this little stitch, it was just kind of a counting issue, because basically to make a really long stitch like that, I call for doing like a yarn over 4 times. And so for most people that's like, oh well, then I've put 4 stitches on the needle. But it's really just those 4 wraps are 1 stitch that you then on the next right side row drop and like carry over to the end of the row. So it was just like kind of basically I had to do a lot of video tutorials and like rewriting of that section to have that make more sense. But that was really the only tricky part, and once they got through figuring that stitch out, they had no problems with it. Like once they figured out, you know, exactly like where basically the setup rows, once they got past that setup row, it just flew for them. had no issues and they loved it. And I can't wait to share their pretty work with you. So, new pattern coming March 30th, the Boonbridge Shawl in Notions magazine. Speaking of Notions magazine, I want to share a review of one of their products that's kind of launching simultaneously with their shawl issue. Kind of put this down a little bit. So they have an ebook called Shawl Star, and they created it last year with their shawl issue, and they're relaunching it this year with 3 new patterns. And they asked if I would give it a review and let all of you know about it. So of course I said yes, I'll review it. And I do have an affiliate code that you can use to purchase it if you would like. If you don't want to purchase it through me, that is fine. You can go, I believe, straight to Ravelry and purchase it as well. But it's a really great ebook, especially if you like to knit shawls and if you like to kind of get creative with your shawls, or if you ever thought, maybe I just want to design my own shawl. This is a really great book. It goes really in depth into construction and how the construction affects the shape of the shawl. So, it kind of lets you know if you're putting decreases here and here, this is how the shawl is going to grow. If you space your increases or your decreases or whatever out, this is how it's going to affect that shape. If you, and it basically just gives you 40 different shawl shapes. Well, now 43 with 3 new shapes that they've come out with. It just gives you all of these different ideas for how you can make different shawls, how you can kind of tweak patterns that you're already doing. Oh, sorry for, I'm gonna knock the table around. How you can kind of tweak the different shawls that you're already working on to kind of, make them a little bit more your own. Or maybe you found a stitch pattern that you just really, really like, but you don't like the shawl shape. Like maybe it's a crescent and you'd rather it be on a triangle, or it's on a triangle and you'd rather it be an asymmetrical. You can kind of work that same pattern or shawl stitch into different shaping, and it goes in depth into how you can do that. It's really well written. It has lots of picture tutorials. There were even links to video tutorials on it. And so let's see here. So yeah, it has 40 different shapes, and they kind of fall into a couple of specific categories. There's triangles, rectangles and squares, polygons, circles and half circles, crescents, hybrid shawl shapes, which mean you're kind of like combining different things together. There are some special shapes. There is one very intriguing one that works into like a spiral, like a kind of a helix, curlicue looking thing. There's also some different like spine variations, much like instead of just a 1-stitch spine, I created this 8-stitch spine on this one. So it has how to kind of, work different spine shapes. And then it also gives you lots of information about like blocking and finishing and doing borders and all that kind of stuff. So I highly recommend it. It's called Shawl Star, and it's put out by Notions, and it's called so notions.com. You can get it on Ravelry. There's also the affiliate link that I'm posting, and that will also be in my newsletter that's going out next week. And the author is Elizabeth Felgate. So that's kind of all the information that you need to know about it. It really is a very neat ebook, especially if you like to knit shawls and you want to kind of grow your knowledge about it. And then you can move beyond doing just basic triangle shapes. It kind of gives you that power to create your own magic when it comes to shawls. So I think that is all the self-promotion that I have at the moment. I talked about the Boonbridge shawl coming out. I talked about the website. I talked about the newsletter that you can subscribe to now. I gave you my review of Shawl Star. All right, so now we can move on to like fun knitting stuff. Yay! Oh, as soon as I say that, I think of like, oh yeah, there was one more thing. With the launch of the Boombridge shawl, I'm going to be doing a knit along on Instagram. So I'll announce it next week, and there will be prizes, kind of yet to be determined prizes. It will probably be quite a long knit along because this is a big shawl. It's very large. And okay, so over on Instagram, it'll be kind of a long knit along, probably like 6 or 8 weeks. And basically, in order to, I can't get this right. Basically, in order to participate, all you'll need to do is post photos with the hashtag on Instagram. Pretty easy. Like, you don't have to sign up for anything. All you have to do is like buy the pattern, knit it, and post your pictures as you're knitting it. And like each picture that you post will count as an entry. So, I mean, I wouldn't suggest posting every single row that you knit, but you know, like more than once you can post about your progress, like as you go through each chart or as it grows or whatever. But as long as you're posting about it on Instagram and I can find you in the hashtag, then you will be entered into the drawing for prizes at the end of the knit along. It's the first one I've done of these, so I'm kind of very by the seat of my pants running this thing. I don't have too many rules at the moment. It'll probably be one of those things like at the end I'll be like, maybe I should have had more rules. But yeah, for now I'm basically just like, go buy the pattern, knit it up, post pictures, I'll send out prizes. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the shawl pattern, and I hope everyone goes out and buys it and tells their friends. Because this one has been so long. Yeah, just go buy it. Tell your friends. Thank you in advance. So I'm going to move on to some things that I have been knitting on. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is a shawl that I've actually knit before. Oh god, that was concerning for a minute. This needle fell out of my knitting. I was like, oh no, I've lost all my stitches. But it was from a different shawl. It was from a cast off project. My needles are still intact. Okay, so you have seen this shawl knit by me before. It's called the My Sister Shawl from Cozy Up Knits, and it was their very first mystery knit along last year. They had another one knit this year that I knit, and I will have to find in order to share it with you. I have a big pile of knitting over here, and it's buried, but I'll find it. We'll get to it in a minute. So anyway, I knit this My Sister Shawl last year. I wore it this year to my husband's Christmas party, and one of his coworkers fell in love with it. She's like, oh, I love that shawl. I wish I could have a shawl like that. Oh, would you knit one for me? And I always kind of am like, yeah. My voice gets really high and I'm like, And I usually kind of preface it with, like, and I only do this for close friends, but I'm like, if you're willing to buy the yarn and pay me for my time, then yes, I will knit this for you. But I want you to understand that yarn can get expensive. Even like discount, more affordable yarn at this yardage can get expensive. And so if you're willing to buy the yarn and pay me for my time, then yes, I will knit it for you. You probably shouldn't expect it anytime soon, but I will knit it for you. And she agreed to all of my terms. So here I am knitting it for her. I've finished the first half, and I am just barely into the second half. it's on hold for a minute while I got another pattern ready to send out to my tech editor. But I'm going to pick it back up here this week now that that's all done. So there's the first half. I posted about, and I'm showing you the wrong side. Here's the right side. Not that it makes the stripes are the only difference that it really makes. So there's the first half. Just like that. So when I knit it the first time, I knit it using sport weight yarn. I had to go up a needle size, but I knit it to pattern, and I got a really nice big shawl. I'm a big gal, I need a big shawl. This time around, I had her actually buy the fingering weight yarn that the pattern calls for, but in order to get the same size, I'm having to put in a lot of extra repeats. So, like in this section, the garter section, I put in like, I think 15 garter ridges instead of 10. In this eyelet section, I did 5 eyelets instead of 3. And in this, I think I also went up 5 repeats instead of 3 in the lace section. And then I just repeated that out. And I basically was able to use up every little bit of yarn. This is all I have left from the first half. Are those, they scattered. Those 3 tiny little balls of yarn is all that I had left after doing the first half. She bought 2 skeins of each color though. So the colors that we are using, I sent her 2 knit picks because it's a little bit more affordable and friendly. So the yellow color that we are using is Palette in the turmeric. Yeah, in turmeric. And then the brown is Palette in Brindle Heather. It's this really nice kind of tweedy, not tweedy, what's the word I'm looking for? Heathered. It's like a, you know, it's got some variation in the color. It's not just plain brown. And then the other one she ordered, and I'm just now realizing this looking at her packing slip, but thanks, Nitpicks. The other one she ordered was Palette in Teal, but what we got was the Totally Teal Capretta. So this is their MCN yarn, and this is just like Highland wool. They're both fingering. They're both really nice yarns, but there's definitely a softness difference between the two. So that's why I made the teal the lace part, because that's kind of the part that people always want to feel and touch, and so I made it the softest, nicest yarn. So yeah, those are the 3 colors that the shawl is in, and you know, it's really coming together really nicely. I really like how the colors are playing with each other. So that will be done and sent off to the recipient soon. While I was talking about that one, I mentioned that I also knit their mystery knit along for this year, the Cozy Up Knits mystery knit along. And this one was called the It Up Shawl. If you're familiar with Cozy Up Knits, they have a podcast. They're 4 sisters out of Alberta, Canada. And they knit and they design and they have all kinds of fun shenanigans together. And the 2 youngest of the sisters are identical twins, or nearly identical twins. And we learned a lot about the twins during this knit along, because every clue came with some fun facts about the twins as they were growing up. So this has been out for long enough that I'm not spoiling anything by any means. This has been The mystery knit along has been over. It happened through the month of January, so it's been over for a couple of months now. The clue one was this middle section, that kind of chevron middle section right here. And it was just knit as like a really narrow piece, like from here to here. You can kind of see where the middle of that is. Now, clue 2 had you pick up along one edge of this center piece in a very specific direction. And my left-handed wonky knitting style got me into trouble here, because while I followed the directions, what ended up happening, you can see like this end, see how it kind of goes in, and then this end goes up. This is supposed to be the bottom point of the shawl, right? But as you can see with the, it's hard to show with the wing. Basically, what I ended up doing was this became the top part of my shawl. And this part up here that's supposed to be the back of the neck ended up on the bottom of the shawl. And I didn't realize this because it was a mystery, like I didn't have the whole pattern to see all at once. And what happened is after I completely finished clues 2 and 3, oops, show you the right side. So, you know, clue like 2 was picking up this section, and then we had like this little decrease section for clues 2 and 3. By the time I got that done, I realized, you know what? I think I picked this up backwards. I think I should have done it the other way. And, you know, like it was all flipped around. But I didn't want to unknit all of that. I was already behind the knit along. I was like, I just want to get this done. So I called it a design feature and left it as it is. And honestly, when I put this around my neck, oops, let's put it this way. And it's still not blocked. It's been over a month and I've not bothered to, I've worn it a lot, I've not bothered to block it. I need to, and I think some of the wonkiness will kind of block out a little bit. But yeah, so when I have this around my neck, like no one can tell that I knit the spine upside down. I know it. And if I like hold it up, it becomes quite noticeable that it looks a little weird. But when I'm wearing it and it's all bunched up around my neck and my coat's over it, no one's gonna know. They do, however, notice the very pretty yarn. That speckled yarn is from Midknit Cravings. Is it Midknit or is it, nope, I apologize. It's Prairie Dye Works. Prairie Dye Works is the dyer, and it was called Painted Horse. I'll show it to you in the garter stitch because it's really pretty in the garter stitch. I wanted to knit the whole shawl out of that one colorway. The other colors, the dark gray is Cloudborn, merino, not merino, Highland Twist sock from Cloudborn, and the light gray is Knit Picks Stroll. So nothing super special about either of those yarns. I do want to show you this close-up texture though of that. They called it like a mock tweed or something, I think is what they called that stitch. But it's really, really pretty, especially like in person. So that's the Twin It Up shawl from Cozy Up Knits. And the other thing that I'm working, that I just finished last night, I can't really show you the whole thing because it's a surprise. But it's a shawl that I'm working on in collaboration with the Dragon Horde yarn. Exciting, right? And I don't have her yarn yet, so what I'm going to show you is just a mock-up of what I've been working on, and I'm not going to show you the whole shape, but I do want to show you this yarn because I showed it to you in the skein when I got it from my sister for Christmas, or at least I'm reasonably sure that I had a podcast where I showed you this yarn. If I didn't, I apologize. But my sister got me some yarn. It was kind of Christmas / birthday yarn. And it was Skein Queen. She's a dyer out of the UK. My sister lives in Washington, D.C. And so they have quite fancier yarn shops in D.C. than they do here in Missouri. Though I'll tell you about one that just opened in Kansas City that I'm really excited about. Anyway, this is her crush base in the Norwal colorway. And it's a 75 merino, 25% nylon sock yarn. And it's just gorgeous. Look how pretty that is knit up in garter stitch. I'm going to kind of bunch it up so you can really see it. Look how it's all these like really kind of subtle, it's on a gray base, but then it's got some really subtle like blues and purples and golds. And I paired it with this kind of burgundy wine color, and it came out really, really pretty. So I'm not going to hold up the whole shawl for you to see because that's still a surprise, and it'll be even more of a surprise in Tristan's yarn from Dragon Horde, is the dyer that I'm collaborating with. So when I get her yarn, it's going to just be super amazing, and I'll tell you all about it then. But until then, I did want to show you, like, that was some really, really nice yarn that I got and knit up, and I just wanted to share the yarn love with you. Some other yarn love that I'm going to share. The Knit Girls. No, not the Knit Girls. The Grocery Girls. One of the knitting type girls that I watch podcasts for. The Grocery Girls did a kind of kit collaboration with Yarn Ink, and this came in the mail the other day. When they showed this on their podcast, I was super excited by it because of these orange speckles, just really got me, and that orange mini along with it. It's like, oh, I need that. I don't know what I'm gonna make with it. Nothing. I have no idea. It's supposed to be socks. It's a sock kit. And this is meant to be like heels, toes, and cuffs. I probably won't knit myself socks. I'll probably knit something else with it. But, oh, it was just so, so pretty. I had to have it. It also came with this cute little, like, Notions pouch with their logo on it. And some hand cream from Tuft Woolen. This is Pom Pom Pucker, and it has this really, almost like a sweet tarts kind of smell to it, but it's real citrusy. It's not overwhelmingly citrus, and it's not overwhelmingly sweet, but it's a really nice balance of the two. Anyway, fun yarn in the mail. Yay! So that's kind of all like actively that I've been working on. I'm going to finish up that shawl for my friend, and then I'm going to dig through my pile of whips and try to figure out what I need to finish next. I still have a Bexley popover on the needles. Like, I've knit most of the body. I've gone most of the way up this shoulder, and I need to do like this front and the back. And then it's like, there's really not that much left to do on it, but it got put away around Christmas time, I guess. It's been in the knitting bag for a long time because I was knitting Christmas gifts and getting stuff out the door. So that needs to be picked back up. I have some mittens. I wonder if I have those mittens like super handy. These mittens like all winter long. I knit my kids' mittens really early in the winter, like fall. And then all winter long, I was like, why didn't I knit myself a pair of mittens? And I came across, these are also Grocery Girls related because Tracy from the Grocery Girls designed these. They're called the Hastings Mitts. And they're my first colorwork mittens. So they're pretty wonky. Like they need a really good aggressive blocking. But I am like to there on the fingers. So I need to go up like I need to finish the repeat that I'm on the colorwork. And then put like the mitten toe. The fingers, I don't know what that's called. The finger part of the mitten on and do the thumbs and they'll be done. So there's really not that far to go on them, but they're taking forever because it's no longer like we have officially hit spring now in Missouri. Knock on wood that Mother Nature doesn't change her mind and give us like some weird freak Easter snowstorm, which happened last year, so it could happen this year, who knows. But anyway, so those are kind of on hiatus. I need to finish them though. Who knows when. I also need to cast on, my sister has requested for her birthday, which is in June, a Leaves of Grass shawl from Jared Flood. And I've got the yarn. I've got the yarn wound up. I've got the pattern. I just need to cast it on. So I keep thinking, all right, this will be the week that I get to cast that on. And then work knitting gets in the way and I need to get some stuff off my needles ASAP. I need like some really solid knitting days. One of the reasons for the big hiatus was that right after Christmas, Missouri got caught up in that whole polar vortex mess, and our kids were out of school they were to have gone back from Christmas break on January 3rd, and from January 3rd to the end of February, for those 2 months, they didn't have a single week where they went to school for the whole 5 days of the week. There was like a lot of 3-day weeks, a lot of 4-day weeks, a lot of early outs, a lot of late starts. It was really, really rough those 2 months, especially February. We missed, I think, a total of like 15 or 16 days of school during those 2 months, which is a lot. And not a lot of work got done during those couple of months because it was constant like keeping the kids entertained and being homebound and like getting really stir crazy and just like I need to get out of the house. So yeah, not much got done during those 2 months, which is why my pile of knitting is like this high. Anyway, I've rambled on for like a good 45 minutes, and that's longer than most of the other podcasts that I've done in the past. So thanks for coming back and watching me after such a long hiatus. Here's to a really long season 3. Hopefully I can make it through the holidays and just like seamlessly work into season 4. I don't know. We'll see. But for now, I'll see you in at least 2 weeks. And keep an eye out for the Boombridge shawl. Make sure to share it with your friends. Go buy the Shawl Star ebook because it's a super great resource if you're into shawl knitting. And that's all I've got for you. Happy knitting!